Hello, this is part 11 of the sampler Loopstation tutorial. So this time, what we're going to do is we have this bit so far. And what we want to do is we want to be able to, we have a way to record in, and we want to be able to grab parts of the loop of the waveform and then cause those parts to be looped. Okay. Now, right now, so it's as it stands, if we click on the left side of it, it's recording. And if we click on the right side, that's like a pause or play, right? So that's a problem, isn't it? Because if we have, say, something recorded in here, and I want to grab it here to loop, I'm going to hit that record button, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to squish everything a little bit over. We're going to add some buttons on the end here, just so we can have a GUI that works for recording and playing and pausing, etc. All right, so let's get on that. So there's a few kind of tweaks we have to do, and as I was saying earlier, I think in a previous thing, this is fairly typical of prototyping or developing a project. A lot of times you have to reiterate, you have to go back over your code and rewrite some of it. That's fairly normal. A lot of times you get to a certain point and then you realize that there's some architectural changes that you like to make, and then you just go over to the very beginning, start from scratch. So that just does happen. So now for the looping bit, let's go to just see how we're drawing the backgrounds and et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And this is this rectangle. We have 0 to width. Okay. So push things over, which is kind of easier said than done, especially since the way we kind of calculate that. So let me just as a reminder remind you that what we did was we had a preset track height, and maybe this wasn't the best way to do things, but that's okay. We'll just stick with it for now. We had a number of tracks, and then we just had to sort of manually calculate because the new version of processing doesn't allow us to use variables in here. So we had to manually calculate what that would be. So 8 times 120, is 800 plus 160 is 960. So that's why the height there is 960. So I guess we'll have to do it in reverse. So what we'll do is we're going to have a change the width here maybe to, and then I think we use width here and a lot of other things. We'll keep the width. What we're going to do is we're going to scoot everything over. So the width, W will represent the width of the track, all right, but not necessarily our canvas, all right? And we're going to have another variable here called x0. So I'm going to say, I'll just make it a float, x0, okay? And then I'll say equals, let's say 24, okay? And then we'll have the size be 1024 then. We'll have a basically, oops, what happened? Oh, okay. We'll basically have a margin of 24 pixels. So 10, 24, which is kind of a typical size. 960, not so much, but I think we can more or less leave that because we're not changing the vertical spacing at all. So we'll just leave that. We'll leave that be for now. That seemed to work out pretty good. Okay, so so let's go through and see what the problems we're going to have are, and we'll just take it section by section and just make some adjustments using the x0, which is 24 now. So push everything over. We have to push the cursor over and everything like that. All right, so let's just go down to the draw area and just look at the track background. We have a rectangle that starts at x is 0, right? And remember, we're not messing with the y at all. And this is width and track. The width stays the same because we kept W to equal the width of the track. Okay, so we just have to change that, right? At least in this case, it seems pretty straightforward. We're just going to make that x0, oops, little lowercase x0. Okay, so let me run that and just see what happens. And in fact, it did seem to push everything over. Now, of course, we can't see because this is black and black, but that's fine. I think that'll work okay, unless we want to draw some kind of border or something or change the color of that track. But for now, let's just leave it. I think it's okay, huh? We can change the background color of those so we can see this margin area, but I think more or less we can see it. All right, so we'll do that. We'll just go again bit by bit. So update waveform. That's okay because that's just updating it, sending the message. Okay, draw the waveform now. We're gonna have to start at I minus 1. That's your x1, right? So so that'll start at 0. So we're going to just have to add to this bit. And since addition and subtraction is all the same, we don't need to put an order of operations. We'll just say plus. But we can if you want. We'll plus x0. Okay. And then I2 will be the same too. X2, sorry. So this is x1. Y1 is all this business. And x2 will be here I plus xo. Right? Right. Because then it just goes pixel by pixel. That's right. I plus x0. Okay. So that seems to take care of the waveform. Now let's go to the beat grid. We're going to just start those over. This is this line, which we put on the same line, but it's kind of big, the font. So this line is I times pixels per measure, and we're just going to have to add that x0 to that. Put those in parentheses, and then push plus x0. And same, so we need same thing here. I'll just copy all that. Same thing here for y2, because they're just vertical lines, yeah? So y2 is going to, I mean, x2 is going to be the same as x1, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. And the beat marker is the same. Ellipse is going to be plus. So again, we have to put this in parentheses and add x0. And then 6 and 6, that's fine, that will stay. Record highlighting, yes, unless we want to make the whole track, but no, we'll just put x0 here. Put an x there, okay. Pause highlighting, same thing, x0. And the cursor now, we're going to go from CX to 0, CX to height. And how do I update the cursor? Here, TRCX equals math IDX. Da, da, da. So from 0 to 1 to 0 to 1,000. So it's actually from x0, right, to 124, right? 1024, right? So if it starts over a little bit, we add, or we can say 1000 plus 24. Or if you wanted to be really clever or really exact, it might even be better to say the W plus x0. Huh? So let's do that, because that's, if we change those things, then it'll update everywhere. Okay, so we'll say instead of 1024, we're going to say it's going to map that to W plus x0. Okay, so that should work okay. And then we'll deal with this later. We're going to have to add some buttons in there, in the margins, and then we'll have to change this fairly significantly so that we're only when we're touching the buttons. Can we do it? Okay, so let's run that. Yeah, and so the markers moved over nicely, I think. It looks pretty balanced. Does that look right? And then I suppose it would be worth turning the super collider bit on. Okay. Went away and then turned the super collider bit on, so you don't have to go through that. So yeah, so it seems to be working okay. Seems to be going, and then back to there. Yeah, so we have this little margin of things to do to make some buttons. All right, so that seems to be pretty good. We'll leave the super collider bit running. I have enough power here in my thing. And let's just first of all draw some buttons there on the left margin, so that we'll have a record, a play button, and we'll have another button, but we'll add that later. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's see. We kind of want it on top of everything. It's not really going to impact on the cursor or the highlighting. I didn't really look at the highlighting. Well, I guess since the super collider part is running, we can record something. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, that seems to work okay. And then, yeah, it just plays the one bit. We'll leave that paused so we don't have to deal with it. Okay. Oh, and I guess actually it just brings, this will something we cover later, but I think it would be nice to have like a stop button or something like that for the whole thing, so I don't have to keep quitting SuperClide or going there manually. We should be able to control everything from the GUI. All right. So let's go and make some buttons. Okay, let's just make some simple squares in the left margin. Let's just do that. And I guess we'll just put it over everything, over the highlighting and everything. It doesn't really impact because it's off to the side. So we'll just make a section over here. We'll call it, play record buttons maybe. Okay. And then what are they going to be? We're going to have no stroke. We're going to have fill. Fill of red for maybe the record. And then we'll draw it at, say, rect at, say, 0, 0. And let's see, width of 7, maybe? It's 24. So that's really small, actually. So maybe 15. Let's see what that looks like. Oops. Okay, a little button in the corner for record, maybe something like that. And maybe a little button under that for play. So how do we automate this so we have one for each track? Well, I think we can make them slightly bigger too. What's 18 look like? 18. Okay. So, I can even go up to 20, really. Okay, so let's make that, and then, well, we'll just make it for every track, and then we have to do the same thing here for every all the other buttons. Okay, so let's just do a for loop again, and we'll say for int I equals 0. I is less than num tracks I plus plus. Okay. And we're going to make this rect at really I times track height, isn't it? Yeah. So I times track, right? And that should work. So it should make one for every. Oh, right. Sorry, that's X. Sorry. This is still 0, and that's I times track height is the Y, of course. Oops. Let's see. Z. Cut that. Paste that, and that's 0. Yeah, so a little button there. I guess maybe add a little bit margin. It just looks kind of funny there. So maybe more towards the center. We can do I times track height plus a little bit, plus like maybe 20, something like that. Yeah, it's slightly better. I think the button's a little too big. I mean, you can just do however you want. Just play with it as much as you want. Figure it out. 17. Okay. Yeah, so it doesn't get in the way of your reading. All right, so we have those. Now we'll just draw a play button slightly down from it. So fill 255 green. Let's make it green 0 2550, and then I'll just copy this rect so I don't have to retype it. And basically, it's just slightly down from there. The things are 17. I mean, probably make a lot of sense to make all these variables, but also it'd be fine just to manually do it. So we gotta have it this same distance plus 17 plus maybe a little gap. So plus 20, and we'll just add another plus 20. Something like that. See what that looks like. Yeah, that's all right. Looks okay. Okay, so we have a record button and a play button, okay, for every track. And you can make whatever aesthetic changes you want. But there you go. We're just, again, using that for loop strategy to make buttons for every track. Okay. Now we have to change, of course, these mouse press bits. So instead of just pressing anywhere on the side, so that we can, drag loops over. All right. So basically, it says, it's going to look and see if it's the right track number, and if mouse Y is greater than track height and mouse Y is less than that. So it's got the track good. So we just really have to change this X bit, right? So actually we do have to change this bit too. So how do we get it exactly that button? Okay. So let's look and see what we did. We just did the track height plus 20. All right. So for the first button, this is record anyways. Yeah. So we have to do mouse Y is greater than I times track height and then plus 20, right? So that's going to put us on the very top border of the button, and mouse Y is less than I times track height plus track height. It's not actually plus track height. It's plus, and it was 17 big, so it's 37. Okay. And then the X now is, it's got to be less than the width of the thing, which was 17. So if mouse X is less than, or we'll just put less than or equal to 17. Okay. Yeah, that should work. So let's see how that works. So if we click on that button, it hits record. Otherwise, if we click anywhere else, that doesn't work anymore, but we can record like that. Record. That works for that. This works for that. That works for that. Good. So let's pause all those. Okay. I'm still having that weird sound card thing, but that's okay. All right, now we'll just fix up the play button, which is the same kind of thing. We just have to adjust the coordinates since we already have this nice structure in place. So mouse Y is greater than I plus track height plus, what did we say? So plus 20, right? Plus 20 plus 20. So mouse Y is greater than I plus track height plus, we can just say plus 40, but maybe it's just clear that we understand we're plus 20 for the top margin, and then plus another 20 for the space between the first button and the second button. Okay. And it's less than I plus track height plus 20 plus 20 plus 17, right? Because that's how big our button is. So plus 20. This seems kind of verbose, but you know that each digit represents something. So you understand that that's just a little bit of cushion space we gave from the top of the track, so it looks a little bit better to the top of the first button. This will get us past the end of the first button plus the border between buttons of 3, and then to the bottom 17 of the button, which is 17. So that's what that does. Okay. And then again, same here, mouse X is less than or equal to set 17, right? Okay. So hopefully that works. Yeah. And yeah. That my old things are still going there. Okay, so that works, and then it doesn't. Nothing happens when I text aside. Okay. Works for that. That works for that. Good. Shouldn't have anything here. Yeah. The graphics work for sure, but does the toggle work? Yeah, that works okay. Yeah, everything seems to be fine. Great. Okay, so those are all paused. Okay, great. So that wasn't too bad, actually. We just moved those buttons over, and we created ourselves a nice little, just a button area GUI. And we, remove these, so now we can grab the loops. Okay, so I'll end that there, a nice short one. And the next one then will be to look at how we can drag parts of the waveform and just have those be looping. And so we'll get back to doing things in Super Collider and a couple other things. Okay, so good luck with that.